Well, good afternoon, everyone. This election is going to be extremely close, despite the views of some commentators that it's a foregone conclusion. Actually, we're in an MMP environment. MMP is designed to be a close-run thing, and it's going to be extremely close. Sadly, the Labor Party has decided to resort to desperate and dirty tactics and is now actively lying on a near daily basis about the National Party campaign. Over the course of this election campaign, we've had lies about the winter energy payment, various outlandish claims about National firing all the teachers and selling all the schools. The latest lie today is that the National Party has pulled out of a leaders' debate when the leader of the Labor Party, the Prime Minister, has COVID and therefore can't make the pre-arranged leaders' debate, which is the press debate, which was meant to have been next Tuesday. Obviously, no one wanted Chris Hipkins to get COVID, least of all him and the wider Labor Party team. He does have COVID. The debate can't therefore happen next Tuesday. For the Labor Party to claim that National is therefore pulling out of a debate that they themselves have said they cannot attend is absolutely ridiculous. I do want to cover off the violence and intimidation that the National Party has seen on the election campaign so far today. And we have taken the unusual step this afternoon or this morning to publish for New Zealanders the intimidation and thuggish behaviour that the gangs are engaging in. The gangs who, by the way, are actively publicly supporting the Labor Party because they know that the National Party is going to crack down on gangs. Harry Tam, the senior mongrel mob member, is on the public record as saying that our mission is to keep National out. That's why the mongrel mob has held at least 10 meetings around the country encouraging gang members to vote Labor. Sadly, there have been a number of incidents in the last couple of weeks. Let me just read out a few of them. A National candidate has been forced to move house after a threat from a gang member. A senior Headhunters member filmed a National candidate and their spouse in a restaurant and shared it with followers online with an abusive and intimidating message. There have been death threats made to a volunteer in Auckland. There was an allegedly intentional dog attack on a door-knocking volunteer, resulting in injuries, resulting in medical attention. Several volunteers just this weekend, just gone, have been abused and followed by gang members in Hawke's Bay. And we've had a candidate have a bottle of beer thrown over them, and their volunteers frequently intimidated, and actually their house broken into as well. This has been a troubling series of events, thuggery and intimidation that has no place in a New Zealand election campaign. We believe strongly in the National Party in free and fair elections in which everybody can have a chance to have their voices heard, and candidates and MPs can go around the country and campaign hard for their respective political positions, and it's really sad that the gangs are engaging in this sort of behaviour. With that, happy to take your questions. Well, Christopher Luxon is happy to debate Chris Hipkins, and in fact he's done it twice, and next week there's another debate on Thursday. And I just remind people, in relation to next Tuesday at the press debate, we have offered publicly for Nicola Willis, the Deputy Leader of the National Party, Christopher Luxon's 2IC, to debate the 2IC of the Labor Party, who was Kelvin Davis. I offered that publicly on Morning Report this morning. There has been radio silence from the Labor Party to the suggestion that the two deputy leaders might engage in the debate. Nicola Willis is happy to debate Kelvin Davis anytime and anywhere. We can't pull out of a debate that's not happening. Chris Hipkins has COVID. He is not going to the debate on Tuesday. So Chris Luxon can't make the debate on Tuesday. So he can't pull out of a debate that's not happening. Well, I think it makes sense for the deputies to go up against each other. I'll make the public offer now that I'm happy to debate Megan Woods as well. We have the two campaign chairs, two senior spokespeople. We had Erica Stanford debating Jan Tinetti. I think it was on one of the weekend shows on the weekend. Shane Retty's debated Aisha Verrill as well. So, I think deputies make sense. Let's put Nicola up against Kelvin Davis. Well, I think it makes sense to have deputy against deputy, so Kelvin Davis up against Nicola Willis. We'd be up for that. We've offered that publicly. There's been radio silence so far from the Labor Party. Well, we have a very busy campaign schedule over the next 2 weeks. Our last 2 weeks of the election campaign period has been set in stone for a long period of weeks, if not months, actually. And I'm not going to publicly disclose our travel plans on live TV, but we'll be around the country, and we have a very busy schedule of events over the next 2 weeks. Chris Hipkins and Christopher Luxon are going to debate again. It's called the TVNZ debate, and it takes place next Thursday, which is 2 days out from voting day. Yeah. Guess what? People on the South Island have TV, and they've already watched Chris Luxon and Chris Hipkins debate on TVNZ last week, or the week before, sorry, and News Hub last week. Over 1.4 million people have watched collectively those combined television debate performances, and there's another debate next week. So I don't think anyone thinks they're missing out on any kind of democratic action here. There's been plenty of debates. Well, the only person who's pulled out of a debate is Chris Hipkins because he got COVID. Now, that's very unfortunate. No, Christopher Luxon is willing to debate Chris Hipkins, and he has done it twice already, and he's going to do it for the third time. The only person who's pulled out of an election debate is Chris Hipkins because he got COVID. And that's unfortunate for Chris Hipkins, but the Labour Party can't now turn around and claim that they've pulled out of a debate that isn't happening on Tuesday next week. Well, you can figure it out, but it's certainly not Chris Luxon.
Is there a single date, one single date that Chris Luxon would do?
I'm not privy to the precise back and forth between the two campaign teams and the press and newspaper. I think there's been a good faith effort made to find dates that work for everybody, involving venues and people's various availability. But so far it doesn't look like we've got to that point.
That's quite an important point, and you are the campaign chair. So is there a single night next week that Luxon doesn't have an event on in the evening where he could be in Christchurch and do this?
He has events on every night next week. That if the press debate is during the evening, then it makes him unavailable to do those debates.
Are they both expected to be in Christchurch next week? Why couldn't your teams just get together?
Well, I don't know Chris Hipkins' travel plans, so I can't speak to that.
Is Christopher Luxon scared of listening to an understudy?
Well, I think it's widely considered that Chris Luxon comprehensively won the first debate, and actually I think if you cut through all the noise, he also comprehensively won the second debate as well. When Chris Hipkins let Christopher Luxon actually say something, he had many more substantive things to say than Chris Hipkins did. So we've got no fear about debating Chris Hipkins. He's going to do it for a third time next week as well, and as I say, if the Labour Party wants to put up their Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, who's been the Deputy Leader now for 5 years, very experienced MP, Kelvin Davis, been a Member of Parliament off and on since 2008. Nicola Willis is more than prepared to go up against Kelvin Davis. You might want to ask the Labour Party why there has so far been, over a period of 7 hours, radio silence as to why they don't want to put up Kelvin Davis against the Deputy Leader of the National Party, Nicola Willis. I just say that you need to ask Kelvin Davis and the Labour Party why they seem unwilling so far. But look, I only made the offer this morning. What are we now? It's sort of just gone 3 o'clock. So there's plenty of time left in the day.
Just on your comments about the intimidation and abuse that's been received, this is another instance from another party where this has happened. The general feeling seems to be that this is the most toxic campaign that there has been. There were a lot of concerns leading into it. I asked you a number of times about potentially meeting with other parties ahead of the campaign period to have a discussion about what potential safety risks there might be. Have you been, I guess, shocked, or did you not expect that this sort of stuff would happen, and have you been a little bit stunned by it?
Well, no other political party made an outreach to us to discuss that. They might have talked to you and publicly mentioned that through Newsroom, but no one ever bothered to contact the National Party, least of all the Labour Party. I certainly don't think anyone considered that the gangs would get involved in the election campaign in the way that they have. I have been quite shocked as the reports have come into our campaign headquarters about the way in which the gangs are behaving, and actually they are actively campaigning for the Labour Party. Every New Zealander needs to know that.
All of those examples that you use.
There are other parties who have experienced it's not just from gangs.
And it's appalling, and I'm just simply making the point that in relation to the National Party, we have been the victim of gang violence and intimidation, and it's outrageous. And I'm not seeking for a moment to belittle or demean the other experiences that other candidates from other parties have had. Many of those have been publicly reported.
Those examples you gave before, all those examples, you can confirm that they were all gang-related that you read out?
Yes, in relation to almost all of them, they are gang-related and they have been reported to the police.
How many were not gang-related?
I'll have to double-check exactly, because in relation to one of them, I think there is a supposition, but I don't want to allege that publicly without checking that.
So more than half of them?
Yes. Well, in relation to one of them, in relation to at least one of them, the gang members' involvement is publicly at least verifiable by the fact that some of the people doing the alleged behaviour were wearing gang patches, for example.
Did all these events take place over the last 4 weeks or more recently than that?
Last 4 weeks. I'm not shouting. That is publicly correct. That is assembled. That is assembled. Just so everybody knows, the journalist is holding up a graphic that we have shared from the National Party account, which is Harry Tam's tour of the country alongside the mongrel mob to encourage people to vote for the Labor Party. We have assembled that from publicly available information. Harry Tam is not hiding this. Harry Tam is all over Facebook publicly saying, vote Labor. And I can give you any number of examples of Harry Tam and other mongrel mob members saying, our mission is to keep National out. Vote Labor. He is actively saying, vote Labor. No, I'm not saying the Labor Party is endorsing it. I'm not saying the Labor Party is endorsing it. I'm saying Harry Tam and the mongrel mob are campaigning for the Labor Party. That is a matter of public record and a matter of fact. People might not like it, but it is the truth. Gangs are criminal organisations by definition. The National Party wants to shut gangs down. They have no place in New Zealand society, and public involvement and tolerance for the gangs is part of the problem. Gangs have no place in New Zealand society. We want to eradicate the gangs in the National Party. That's why we're campaigning on a strong, tough law and order message that will smash the gangs and make sure they don't operate in New Zealand. Yeah, well, look, if they want to go out there and campaign for the Labor Party, that they can. We're just saying, people need to see it for what it is. No, see, this is more nonsense being spread by the Labor Party, who frankly should know better. We've got a very clear plan when it comes to Three Waters. It's called Local Water Done Well. It firstly recognises that the owners of these water assets are councils and communities themselves, and the Labor Party's got themselves into difficulty when it comes to Three Waters because they have essentially assumed that central government owns water assets or water entities, and they've decided to do stuff to local government rather than let them sort it out in the first place. That's essentially the last 5 years of water reform. So our starting point, and this is in line with what the Communities for Local Democracy want and many local councils want around the country, is a chance to sort out new governance arrangements and new amalgamation arrangements for local water themselves. We're prepared to let them do that. Our expectation, as we made clear in February in Local Water Done Well, is that will result in economies of scale, it will result in amalgamations, it will result in consolidation of water entities. It will also result in balance sheet separation, which allows those entities to get the water assets currently off the council balance sheets into these new entities, borrow against those assets for the long term and invest over that long period of time. That reduces down the cost that ratepayers and water users will meet. And the other major difference between us and the Labor Party is that we're going to get rid of the mandatory co-governance provisions that they have inserted into the new water entities. Well, if by feisty you mean interrupting Chris Luxon all the time and not letting him get a word in edgeways, sure. If you think Chris Hipkins was feisty, that is one term for it. I would say gratuitously frustrating and annoying in the debate is another way of describing feisty. I mean, one person's feisty in a debate is another person also sitting at home saying, I actually literally can't understand what is being argued about here because the two people are talking over each other in the same way I'm talking over you now. It's very frustrating, right? Which is the problem with that last debate. But I think when Chris Luxon had a chance to say something, he more than matched Chris Hipkins. All of this is publicly available on Local Water Done Well from February. We've said, as a last resort, we would potentially consider transitional funding as those new entities transition in. It's worth remembering that even under the Labor Party's plans, the new entities, they started with 4 new entities, now they've gone to the 10 new entities. They don't start life until 2026. So our starting point is councils own the water assets and the communities own them. We're going to give them a chance to sort out amalgamation arrangements. We would give ourselves backstop powers for central government to step in if and when required, if that doesn't work out and they don't meet the water quality tests and the economic regulatory tests that we're going to set for those water entities. And then down the line, as a last resort, we would potentially consider that funding and we go forward from there. Certainly not. That's not the expectation whatsoever. We want to let local councils sort it out, and as I say, that the amalgamation and the balance sheet separation does the heavy lifting when it comes to sorting out water reform in this country. And that's the frustrating thing about this whole debate, is that actually I believe, and I've said this publicly in the House before and I'll say it again now, I actually believe there is a widespread consensus across the Parliament as to how to sort out water infrastructure in New Zealand. The debate is mired in intricacy and frankly frustrating conversations about politics rather than economic regulation of water.
Why is this campaign so toxic?
Why is the campaign toxic? Well, I think it's one of the most important elections in a generation, actually, and I think the Labor Party is desperate, and I think they are cynically lying about much of the National Party's policy agenda in order to try and get a few more votes because they know they're losing and they don't want to lose.
So you think that vitriol and the toxicity is all Labor's fault? You don't think any other political party can take any responsibility for the divisiveness in language that's been used?
Well, I certainly don't think the National Party's been divisive.
Well, so who has been, other than Labor?
The Labor Party.
Just Labor? No, ACT, New Zealand First, Freedoms NZ, none of them using language in any way that could be creating a toxic environment. Well, the Freedoms New Zealand Party is publicly on the record. I think everyone can see what they're up to. I'm here today to talk about the National Party campaign. We are seeking to unite the country, not divide the country, and I resent and resist the implications and the imputations that you're trying to imply for us. National's not the only other party. Yeah, well, I'm here to talk about the National Party. We are running a unifying, positive campaign. There are many other parties, not the least of which is the Labor Party, who are seeking to divide New Zealanders, and frankly, they should know better.
He's in Christchurch tomorrow, he's got a gap in his diary, he's meant to be doing this debate. Why doesn't he just do it against someone in the Labor Party who right now doesn't even think because no, we're not getting into this. I mean, Chris Luxon is not going to sit down and debate Kelvin Davis in Christchurch tomorrow. Chris Luxon will debate Chris Hipkins. He's done it twice. He's doing it again next week. Because he's not up against. People aren't making an assessment of Chris Luxon against Kelvin Davis. In a way, they are making an assessment of Nicola Willis against Kelvin Davis, and we are happy to have Nicola Willis and Kelvin Davis debate each other, but people are assessing Chris Luxon against Chris Hipkins, and he's not going to debate any old random Joe Schmo in the Labor Party. That's not happening. No one could objectively and fairly accuse Chris Luxon of wasting time on this election campaign. He has been out and about every day. He has done a stand-up for you guys every day. He has met thousands, tens of thousands of New Zealanders. He has just concluded a 40-date tour around the country on our Back on Track meetings in which he met over 11,000 people, and he's going to meet probably 11,000 more between now and October 14. So he is not going to debate Kelvin Davis tomorrow night in Christchurch. Much as you might wish him to, he is not going to debate any old random Joe Schmo from the Labor Party. He's going to debate Chris Hipkins. Well, yeah, and we've offered up Nicola Willis, and I'll just say again, if Nicola Willis... No, but Thomas was saying that he could debate Kelvin Davis and potentially other people as well. I'm just saying, Nicola Willis is happy to debate Kelvin Davis. Chris Luxon is going to debate Chris Hipkins. He's done it twice. He'll do it again next week. It does sound like he's a bit scared, right? Why doesn't he just do it? If the Labor Party sucks so much, why can't he just to debate someone who has no experience in debating.
I think we're really through the looking glass now. Chris Luxon is against Chris Hipkins for the job of Prime Minister. He's debated him twice. He's going to debate him again next week. Calvin Davis and Nicola Willis can go at it. I'll go against Megan Woods potentially. And there's been a whole range of other debates that are happening, and that's where the matter lies.
Okay, last question, I think.
That is utterly infantile and stupid. The only person who is pulled out of a leaders' debate is the leader of the Labour Party and our Prime Minister, Chris Hipkins. That is facile and infantile, much like the Labour Party. No, that is a fanciful retelling of history. That is not what happened in the debate. And Winston Peters is not going to be Prime Minister after this election. The only time Winston Peters has ever been Prime Minister was for a 6-month period when he was acting Prime Minister, when Labour went into coalition with Winston Peters. And it wasn't that long ago, which makes Chris Hipkins' crocodile tears about that all the more hilarious, in the same way that his constant cries about racism are hilarious, because he sits in a caucus and sat in a cabinet with Phil Twyford, who 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, went on TV and leafed through names of Chinese people and decided to link that to people who were buying houses in Auckland, the famous Chinese-sounding names debacle, which was widely decried by many commentators at the time as a racist stunt. Chris Hipkins has been silent, notably, about that disgraceful incident, and now turns up and purports to care about racism and divisiveness in election campaigns. He should go and have a chat to Phil Twyford about such racist behaviour. No, Jacinda Ardern demoted Phil Twyford after the Kiwi Build failure, when they promised 100,000 houses and failed to get off the ground, and he described Treasury people who warned him against that as a bunch of kids who didn't know what they were talking about. It turned out they were right, because Kiwi Build was an absolute failure. So Jacinda Ardern demoted Phil Twyford. That was 4 years ago. What's that? Well, Phil Twyford's barely in Parliament. He is running again, so that's probably a little bit unfair, I should say. I should recant that. No, Chris Luxon's not going to debate Phil Twyford. Thanks very much.